My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask you for pardon for my sins, and grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. A friend was telling me that in their company they had a course on leadership for the management team. It lasted for 3 days and it wasn't cheap. He was telling me that on the first day they had to take a few written tests and interviews with different gurus that ran the course. He said that at the end of it, he had a conversation with the great guru, in which he was told about his weak and strong points, ways to improve, aspects of his character to work on, immediate goals for personal development, and so on. And when I asked him if it was worth the money, he replied, tongue in cheek, a real waste. He just told me all that my wife has been telling me for years. Only my wife never charged for her criticism. And I remember this conversation when I read your words, Jesus, in the Gospel today. To what shall I compare this generation? You were asking your audience. It is like children who sit in the marketplaces and call to one another, we played the flute for you, but you did not dance. We sang a dirge, but you did not mourn. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they said, he is possessed by a demon. The Son of Man came, eating and drinking, and they said, look, he is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. It looks like no one could tell these Pharisees anything. They wouldn't accept advice from anybody. They knew better. If it was John the Baptist, they wouldn't listen to him because he was weird. As a child in the school put it, he was a man who went about the desert, dressed like a camel and eating insects. And if it was you, Jesus, they wouldn't listen to you because you ate with sinners and publicans. In my prayer now, in your presence, Jesus, I want to consider this aspect of our lives. We all know people who just wouldn't listen. When I was a doctor, these were the worst kind of patients, the know-it-alls. You would tell them that they needed to do some exercise, and before you finished the sentence, they were making excuses. It's impossible. I never was a fitness type of person. My granny never did exercise in her life, and she is now 98 years old and counting. Whatever you say is useless. They will not budge. Like my friends from the leadership course, people nowadays are ready to pay a fortune to receive feedback. And yet, we're usually surrounded by people who love us, who can see us better than we see ourselves, and can help us improve in many ways for free. On hearing my friend's comments about the inexpensive criticism of his wife, I wanted to know exactly what sorts of things they mentioned which he could improve. We're good friends, so he didn't have any problem telling them to me. He said they told him things like, you should listen more and talk less. You should pay attention when people talk to you. You should try to make people feel they are important to you, not by faking it, but by having real concern for people and their problems. As he mentioned these things, I could imagine perfectly well his wife telling him the same things over and over again for years. I myself was aware that he could improve on those things, and I have mentioned a few of them before. But it took a guru on leadership to say the same things, charging big money, for him to start considering that his wife was probably right. Jesus, I can see now you have surrounded me with people who care for me and correct me. You know how difficult it is sometimes to receive feedback when we haven't done well, when we could do better. Lord, it takes great humility to accept corrections. How easily we fire back with excuses when someone points out something we can improve. Like the Pharisees, at times we don't like to be corrected. And we find excuses not only to explain why we do what we do, but also to rule out the person who gives you feedback. It is the "look who's talking" excuse, right? For example, why should I quit smoking if the doctor smokes? Or I will start my diet when the doctor himself starts his. The Pharisees would not listen to John the Baptist because he fasted. They would not listen to you, Jesus, because you ate and drank. I need to examine myself to see if I am the kind of person who welcomes feedback. Because in the end, those who receive more feedback and listen to it are the ones who make progress. The Old Testament is full of stories of prophets sent by you, Lord, to correct the behavior of your people. Like Nathan was sent to David. Do you remember? After committing adultery, David had Uriah killed in order to marry his wife, and he didn't seem to be bothered about it. When the prophet Nathan came, he told David the story of the rich man and the poor one. The rich man had loads of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb. He raised it and grew it up with him and his children. It shared his food and drank from his cup and even slept in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. You remember the story. The rich man made a barbecue with the poor man's ewe lamb, and David was indignant, ready to sentence the rich man to death, only to realize that Nathan was referring to David himself. How easily we see the defects of another and will not recognize ours. Jesus, am I an easy person to correct? Am I the sort of person people can talk to? A person that wants to grow, to develop, to improve, to become a saint? In order to become a saint, I really need to be ready to be corrected. Saints, like good athletes, are never satisfied with their mark. Remember that God is not asking us to be good, but to be perfect, as our Heavenly Father is perfect. And that's why saints love to be corrected, to be helped. When the Holy See was studying the statutes of Opus Dei for approval, Saint Josemaria was told that the officials wanted to remove the part where the statutes explained that the President General could be corrected by any member of Opus Dei. The officials of the Holy See didn't think it was a good idea. So after offering resistance, eventually there was a compromise. 2 members of Opus Dei were appointed to transmit corrections to Saint Josemaria. When Saint Josemaria explained this episode, he remarked, "How am I going to become a saint if they can't correct me?" Mary, my Mother Immaculate, I do want to become a saint. Help me to grow in humility. Help me to become a person that people find easy to help, to talk to. That, like the saints, I may be open to receiving corrections and taking advice with joy and gratitude. I give you thanks, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask you for help to put them into effect. my Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.